Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Practical Prepper Podcast. My name is Nick. Appreciate you joining us today. We've got another fantastic episode with the great and powerful Daisy Luther of the Organic Prepper. We cover what's going on in Canada right now, along with the issues that the country has been having around cancel culture. This is definitely a can't miss, and I'm glad you guys are here, so let's get right to it. Enjoy. So before we get started with the topic of cancel culture, which is what we're going to get into today, I received an email from Organic Prepper this morning about what's going on in Canada, and I wanted to ask you about that because it's not cancel culture, but it's definitely a revocation of freedoms, which is kind of along the same thing.
It's a silencing.
Yeah.
Really, I love Canada. I lived there for 18 years. Both of my children were born there. I was married to a Canadian. And it's a great country. It really is, with absolutely fabulous people. And it takes a lot to get Canadians riled up. They tend to be, just in general, very easygoing, mellow-tempered people. And they're very kind. And the fact that they have gotten this fed up really says a lot. And once you push them to the point that they're this fed up, I don't think they're going anywhere, despite all of these threats that Trudeau and his government are making.
Yeah.
And this may be a fatal mistake for Trudeau's prime ministry. He is freezing their bank accounts, canceling their vehicle insurance.
It's crazy.
Trying to tow everything away. No. There's just no way people are going to stand for that.
Yeah. I actually have a excerpt pulled up here from the Organic Prepper, and I wanted to read it, if I may, because this sounds like something from a movie. When I read this, I stopped and I had to reread it because my jaw was on the floor. This is unbelievable. It says, anybody contributing funds in any way to the Canadian Freedom Convoy will now have their bank accounts frozen and be considered a terrorist. They will not be able to purchase food, pay their electric bill in the Canadian winter, or buy medicine. The move from a cash system to a digital system has made this possible. In the future, anybody who contributes money to organizations Ottawa does not approve of have the potential to now be deemed as terrorists as well. It doesn't matter if you gave money to support free speech, religious freedom, bodily autonomy. If what you financially support is in opposition to what Ottawa supports, you are now at risk.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It's dystopian.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I can't believe it. And it's so close to the United States. This kind of feels like something that you could, unfortunately, it'd be easier to stomach if it's in a different country, but for it to be in Canada,
yeah. And I'm quite certain this administration is busily taking notes on what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
I easily foresee the same kind of protest coming up in the United States. I mean, they're already organizing it, and they're going to huge lengths to make it difficult to organize, but I think people are going to persevere. And I personally am 100% willing to be uncomfortable for a while and maybe not have the exact products I want on my shelves to support freedom.
Oh, absolutely. Now, do you think that if at some point, say, because I know there's a part in here about America standing with the freedom fighters in Canada now, if you were to start contributing from an American standpoint, at least now you're allowed to do it. But I could see that causing some kind of you have allies contributing.
Oh, yeah, I know. Well, I mean, if you think about it, I don't know if you've ever done this, but I have writers from all over the world that write about different things. And we have financial sanctions against Venezuela and other countries and Syria, for example. So usually when I make a payment via PayPal, I put the title of the piece in there, just so they can know this is what I'm paying you for. And every time I put the word Venezuela or Syria, my whole account gets frozen and their whole account gets frozen because
Really?
everybody puts a memo funding Syrian terrorists
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Yeah.
on their PayPal account. So you can't, I mean, you can send it, but you can't say the word Syria on PayPal without getting flagged.
Wow, that's good to know. I've never heard of that before. And I use PayPal a lot to, send
Yeah,
and receive money as well, but I've never had that. Well, given I've probably never sent money to Syria, at least not yet. But
yeah. I mean, it's how we pay our writers.
yeah,
So yeah, and I've got people all over the world in certain countries. Their country name cannot be mentioned, even though they can still accept the payment. So we just have to use different wording when we send them funds.
yeah.
It's
Is
really
it
weird.
if you didn't use Syria, but if they have like an email or something that reflects it being from that domain or an IP in that country, is it affected that way, or is it not? It's only if you use the
It's
word.
my notes. It's my
Yeah,
note. Like it has been every single time. So I expect to see a lot more of that going forward.
yeah. It's weird they're doing a lot with the. I know there's like the new. Again, this is kind of off the track, but the taxes in the U.S. how they are looking into if you make over $600, no matter what, no matter who you are in the year 2020, that the IRS is going to be sending you a 1099, which is crazy. That's like a step.
Yeah, I'm so glad that Biden is going after those big corporations like he said he was.
Uh huh.
I mean, all these people making more than $600 in a year, they need to pay their fair share.
I know, right? You got to drop the hammer on them.
Oh my
Ridiculous.
gosh. I
They
know.
somebody put it this way, and I mean, I sell things on the internet, which will again make me a victim of this $600 tax rule. But somebody put it like, if you're just a regular person who doesn't sell anything on the internet, but say you buy a television and something happens to where you're going to sell it, you found a deal on another one, and say you bought it for $800 and you sell it for $600. Essentially, what that means at the end of the year, since you sold something for 600, you will be getting a 1099 from the IRS, and they want to know about it, which to me is, I bought it and I paid tax for it, but now I got to pay again.
Yeah, it's BS. It's absolute crap.
Yeah.
Like, I am so fed up with this overreach and like all the new traffic cameras. So billions of dollars um, going to the infrastructure, but instead of putting it into the infrastructure, they want to put it into cameras so they can give people more tickets to pay for the infrastructure.
Right.
That is the most outrageous money grab I have ever seen in my life. Billions of my dollars going to catch me.
Yeah.
Like,
To take
do
more money.
wrong, right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, they said, oh, we'll catch more speeders if we lower the speed limit too. So, a road that you've been driving 65 down for the past 20 years might get lowered to 55, and you might forget or not notice or
Oh, they're
whatever.
counting on it.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
they're gonna nail you. It's disgusting.
Yeah. I just can't. There are certain days when I wake up and, you have all this kind of stuff on your mind and you just can't believe, like, how did we arrive at this point? Or how did we allow it to
We've
arrive at this point?
bunch of horrible economic errors over the past, I would say, 10 and 20 years. I'm not just blaming Biden for this.
Yeah.
Um, then the pandemic just was the kiss of death for our economy. And especially when they closed down all the businesses and the ways people were making money and started giving people $3,000 a month to sit at home.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, obviously, you do, if you're not allowing someone to work, you do have to compensate them somehow. Like, they've got
Mhm.
to live. But they went so far beyond the pale that now we are in this quagmire that it's just going to be, I have no idea how we're going to get out of it without defaulting.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, I mean, that point in time, I knew people who were making leaps and bounds more money by sitting at home doing nothing, collecting unemployment, and then getting those checks. And then, based on if you had children or not, the money they were collecting each week was like I mean, what would be the incentive to return to work? And that's what
My
the
daughter
issue is.
made double staying home as she did
Wow.
going back to work. And they called her when the store that she worked at reopened and said, "Hey, we're reopening. Can I put you on the schedule?" She was the only person who said yes. Nobody else went back to work
Wow.
except the manager, the assistant manager, and my daughter. And she was like, "I can't believe that I am taking a massive pay cut to go have customers yell at me,
Right.
masks and hand sanitizer and only 3 people in the store rules, and I'm getting a pay cut." She said, "This is so stupid. I feel like an idiot." But, recently now they're saying that people who could have gone back to work and didn't are gonna have to pay that money back. So now she's like,
Yeah. And that's how it should be. I mean, that would be
yeah.
the
Uh,
fair thing.
Her coworker flat out said, "No way." Like, her she and her boyfriend were suddenly bringing in $6,000 between them, just sitting there, smoking up, doing whatever.
Right.
Like
Right.
like, come on, why are they gonna go back to work? So, they're probably gonna run into a little trouble this year.
I would imagine. But I mean, what kind of life is it? Like, yeah, it's, maybe if you do it for a year, you're like, this is great. I'm get raking in all this money, but what kind of life are you building, and the example are you setting, say, for, if you have children or for your
Right,
family around you, if you're just gonna
right.
sit at home and collect for free when other people are like, I know this is the morally the correct path to go back to work and contribute to society.
Yeah, I was really proud of my daughter for I did not influence her decision at all. This was totally her call, you
Yeah.
know, because she is allergic to ingredients in the vaccine. And
Mhm.
this is even before they had a vaccine. So, she's quite nervous about getting sick, but
Yeah.
she still said, "No, it's not right to not
Yeah.
work."
Well, kudos to her. That's
Yeah.
the right move. She's a shining example here on the podcast for everybody listening. So that's a good the vaccine and talking about it, and it's a good segue into the cancel culture. That if I was on here right now and I was preaching that it's not real, that it's fake, that somebody can come for me and try and not only shut the podcast down, but potentially ruin my entire life
Yeah.
by digging
Yeah.
through the past. So I guess let's just start with um, where do you think this came from, and what exactly, like, what do you define cancel culture as, like what it is and what it isn't?
I mean, okay, the media is very much controlled by one narrative. We like to talk about China, how the media control is completely government controlled there, and there's only one opinion that's allowed to be aired there.
Mhm.
And we like to say, "Oh, those poor Chinese people have no freedom." But that's exactly what we're running into here. If you don't toe the line and stand with the narrative that you need to have vaccines, you need to wear masks, you need to, stop doing this, that, and the other, for the greater good, that you're a
Mhm.
horrible person and we're going to ruin your life. Like, if you don't toe that line, they're coming after you.
Yeah, yeah. It's another almost like dystopian thing. It's just like a crazy thing to even wrap your head around, that
Isn't it?
this this is even reality at this point.
Right. Right. I mean, we're the freaking United States of America.
Right.
How is this happening here? How can we not have free speech in the United States of America?
Do you think it's more the term cancel culture, or using it as, I don't know, I guess people have sort of weaponized it almost now. Like, it's almost like the line between accountability, holding somebody accountable for what they've said or done, versus censorship, kind of like the whole Joe Rogan thing that's going on in the country right now.
Right. I mean, it's really all one big hairy ball of wax.
Yeah.
It's all combined, I think. There is censorship, there is defunding, there is doxing, there's just like
Yeah.
ruining people's lives because they happen to have a platform that they use to reach others and say, "Hey, I have this question."
Yeah.
Like, think back to the very beginning of the COVID pandemic when they said, "Oh, masks won't do you any good." And
Right.
they admitted a couple of months later, "Well, we lied because we wanted healthcare workers to have masks." So they've been lying ever since. They have a
Mhm.
track record of lying, and we're in trouble if we go against what they say or if we question what they say. But they have a track record of lie after lie after lie,
Mhm.
that it wasn't bioengineered, it didn't come from China, like crazy, crazy stuff, all of which has been proven. And now the mainstream is saying, "Oh yeah, yeah, it was a bioengineered virus that came from China." But what about all of those people who had their livelihoods ruined for saying that
Yeah.
before the mainstream? What about them?
It was, I mean, when you think back on it, like the whole, if you had like a graph, a timeline, it would be comical to see when they said, wear a mask. Okay, masks don't work. Then at one point, it was, you're going to have to double up. You got to wear two.
Right.
Then you don't, then
Yeah,
we're
so
back to it doesn't
yeah.
work.
Yeah,
Then at one point, there was three. I saw people wearing three and the face
the shield.
shield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen anyone with the pantyhose over their mask to make it fit tighter?
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
They're
No.
talking about taking ladies' pantyhose and cutting, like, slices out of the legs and pulling it over your face and neck to keep your mask in place.
Oh, I see.
And I can just picture in my mind a bunch of people in the government just sitting there going, "Okay, I bet you $300 I can get them to wear 2 masks,
Yeah. Oh,
or
yeah.
$400 I can get them to wear 3 masks. I'll bet you 1,000 I can get them to put pantyhose over their face." So, like, it's just
Yeah.
a joke. It's ridiculous.
Just a huge game. That's a good point. I never thought about it like that, but I'm gonna think about it like that forever. Is them,
Right?
in there throwing money down. They're gambling on what they can get
Yeah,
us to do.
yeah, like, it's just ridiculous, and I'm not playing. Like, I'll be cooperative if I go into someone's private business that requires a mask. It's their business, and I can choose whether or not to shop there, and if I
Mhm.
choose to shop there, I follow their rules, you know?
Right.
But I can also choose not to shop there, you know?
Yeah. Correct.
You'll have that freedom.
Yeah. I
Or they
remember being somewhere where, and this was like, I wouldn't say it's the height, maybe the height of the second peak. And a guy came in, he's got his hands in his pockets, and everybody had a mask on, and he's just walking around the store as fast as he can without a mask. He's not even doing anything, but he's just in there, just to ruffle feathers, and they're like, "Sir, you got to wear a mask." He's like, "Nope, nope, nope." And he's just walking around in a
Yeah,
square, just not doing it. Like, to just go somewhere and just to be an antagonist. I mean, there's better things you could be doing with your
well,
time.
it really is,
Yeah.
and, these poor retail workers, like my daughter, they take so much abuse, and it's not their fault. If they don't say something to the customer, they're gonna lose their job.
Yeah.
Well, as the customer, have a little compassion for retail workers because it's not fun to be yelled at by every single customer that walks in the store.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And people get vehemently angry. It's like
Someone spat on my daughter.
really,
Yes.
wow.
Yes, at a beauty supply store. She wanted my daughter to take her mask off, and, I mean, there's video cameras all over the store, and she said, "I can't understand what you're saying with that mask on," and my daughter said, "I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to take it off or I'll lose my job," and she
Right.
said, "Well, since you're so safe," she coughed and then she spat.
I mean, I don't even know.
Said, "I'm not gonna be able to help you with this purchase. It's time for you to leave."
Yeah.
And she just, like, kicked her out of the store. Like, she threatened to call the police if she wouldn't leave the store, and she would not sell her. It was just like a bottle of hairspray, and she wouldn't sell it to her. She's like, "No." Absolutely not.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, that's the total opposite of what you're supposed to be doing. I've number one, I've never really heard of somebody else saying, "I want you to take your mask off," and then when you don't do it, I'm going to spit on you, which is just like, what are we doing here?
grow up. Like,
Yeah,
that sounds like something you do in kindergarten.
right. So with the cancel culture, and we kind of talked about it in the defunding and the doxing. I know you have recently gone through your own spat with this going on. If you wouldn't mind telling us about that.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was a real nightmare last year for us. So earlier in 2021, when the rash of cancellation started, I made an editorial decision to try to avoid some of the more controversial topics because I wanted to protect my website and my writers. I have 7 people on my staff who depend on their income from this website. So
Hmm,
we limited our discussion of vaccines, COVID, climate change, masks, politics, racial violence, and all of this other stuff that people were mad about. And
hmm,
we decided to focus on actionable information about shortages, inflation, and economic collapse. Well, then I had worked with an ad network for 4 years, and I've never ever had a complaint from an advertiser. But I got a message from them saying they had hired a company called the Global Disinformation Index to help them assess my website's risk of disinformation and provide a quote trusted and neutral assessment so brands and companies can make informed decisions and avoid funding this content.
wow.
And so 2 weeks later, um, I got a letter saying that my website was no longer going to be part of their network as of immediately, and due to privacy, they couldn't tell me why. Well, I mean, it's pretty obvious why. It's this
Hmm,
company, GDI, and that is a group that's based in the UK, and their purpose on their homepage says it's time to disrupt, defund, and downrank disinformation sites.
hmm,
So we did not let the British stop telling us what to do back in 1776, apparently, because they're still doing it.
hmm.
Um, so they have just like a massive firewall that makes legal action very, very difficult. First of all, it's based in the UK, so international law is involved.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, it's a nightmare. Their funding comes from governmental, philanthropic, and commercial sources. No funding source can make up more than 33%. It's constantly updated, and they get to decide what is disinformation and what is not. So I was leaving Mexico to come back to the East Coast, and I got the email that said, I'm reaching out with difficult news. Our ad partners have suspended the organic prepper, and we do not have the option to appeal their decision. Unfortunately, this means we need to remove ads from the organic prepper effective immediately and are not able to continue our partnership. Since our ad partners do not include details for proprietary reasons, there aren't any changes or suggestions we can offer to get this adjusted. I'm sorry to deliver this news. I wish there was something we could do, but our hands are tied. We wish you the best. So I published that letter and a bunch of other stuff, and wrote about this. And they were really, really upset with me and threatened legal action for
Wow.
publishing the letter that they sent me. And I mean, I had to threaten legal action back. I spent thousands
Hmm,
on attorneys and legal fees and things like that. And eventually it got to the point where these lawyers were coming after my staff, not me, but my staff. I was kind of prepared for them to come after me, but I'm not going to open up the people who work for me
yeah.
to deal with that kind of thing. So, I was initially going to sue for defamation, and finally I decided, I'm just going to go the other route, and I am going to make my business as bulletproof as possible so that it's difficult for them to take money out of my pocket again.
Yeah. How do you think that when you said that they get to decide what disinformation is. It's weird that somebody could be put in the position of like, okay, you're the
I,
one who decides
I am
what's
the
real.
arbiter of truth.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
how what a job title that is, the arbiter of truth. That's over in the UK to decide what US platforms and websites deem as disinformation. Which
Right.
is, did they say? Well, obviously, the email didn't state it, but was there one thing that you know of that really sent them over the edge? Like this is
No,
it.
because what they said that they were looking at was our top 10 articles. Our top 10 articles are like how to make cottage cheese
Yeah.
and what laundry detergent is safe and what laundry detergent isn't. Like, there's nothing controversial in our top 10 articles.
Mhm.
Nothing.
So,
And I know a lot of people disagree that COVID even exists. I never
mhm.
said that. I wrote about having it. Like, I got sick. I had COVID when I lived in Mexico. I started covering this on January 22nd. That was the first article that I wrote about it. And I said, this is the one. This is the one that could come here. Like,
Yeah.
you need to start thinking about preparing for a pandemic. And really, whether it's an actual deadly pandemic or not doesn't matter if the world is treating it as a pandemic, because it's
Right.
going to have the same effects on us. We're not going to be able to work, we're not going to be able to shop, we're not going to be able to have our regular supply chain.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that part doesn't even matter if you believe it or not. It's
Yeah.
like the results. That's what you need to be focusing on.
Yeah, and that's where, for a while, when people were calling it the plandemic, like it was, whether or not it was true or not, or if it is a real thing or not, or if it was created to kind of as a structure to see how they could get an entire country of people to perform. Like, can we lock them down? Can we do the mass? They're doing their gambling, trying to see what they can get, what
Right.
hoops they can get us to jump through.
Right.
Well, so when it got defunded, what are you currently doing? What are the next steps after this occurred? You just find another ad partner, or
It took a while, but I did find another ad partner. It doesn't pay quite as well, but they are much more open minded. So I'd much rather deal with them.
Mhm.
We really upped our game. We've been putting together a lot of courses. We have a website called, hang on, it's brand new. It's called selfrelianceandsurvival.com.
Mhm.
And that's where all of our courses and ebooks are now hosted,
Oh,
because I
nice.
separate that from the organic prepper, just because, the way things are going, I,
Hmm.
I want, I wanted to have that on a different server.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. It's weird that, so when they came for you and they defunded you and shut you down, it's like, where do you think that the line should be drawn between free speech, because it is free speech for you to get on there,
Mhm.
and or any of your writers to get on there, write an opinion piece about whatever you think is going on in the country.
Right.
It's like they want to know, like, where do you draw the line between free speech and making it a comfortable online environment? I think that's what is going on now. It's like, you can say whatever you want, but when you start saying this stuff and it riles this subset of people up, now
Right.
we have an issue, and that's where you get the canceled.
I mean, the question is comfortable for whom?
Right.
Because these inclusive spaces are not inclusive for everybody.
Mhm.
I know that, as a libertarian, I can't get on there and, espouse my viewpoints about public health
Yeah.
and our personal responsibility to others. Like, nobody wants to know that. you know,
Right.
um, so really the question, I guess, is comfortable for whom? And the answer to that is whoever has control of all the microphones.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah. I
a lot.
have my grandfather he is 84 years old, and he makes a sport out of getting thrown into Facebook jail, is what he calls it.
I
He
have friends like that.
Oh
That's
yeah.
me.
It's like and it happens to him, but what's crazy is, so when it first started, he would say, like, he would give me an example of why he was put in Facebook jail, and I would say, okay, well, I can kind of understand it. But now it's like has done it so many times that he's on some kind of unknown like hyper blacklist, or he's like
Yeah,
shadow banned, because if he
yeah,
says anything even relatively like not normal,
yeah.
he's out. He's back in the
It's crazy. Well,
yeah.
I have not been allowed to be an admin on my own Facebook page for 3 years.
Wow.
I know. It's run by people who work for me because I'm not allowed on there.
Is it for the same reasons? Like you've been, apparently you've got strikes or something against your,
I mean, my personal Facebook page, I haven't really gotten in too much trouble for, and I put all the same stuff there.
yeah.
But I had written an article, I think it was in 2016. That was my first one that got me in big trouble. And it was a racial issue, and CNN had posted a portion of a video, and I found the video in its entirety, which totally changed the entire meaning of what CNN had posted. So I
Mhm.
posted both, and I got banned from my own page for hate speech.
Yeah, I don't see how you can get banned as the admin from a page from your own page. That means there's somebody, there's, the watchful eye. It's like, yeah, this is your page, but
Yeah.
we're still going to make sure that you still say what we want you to say, which is, I mean, it's
Yeah.
wrong on so many levels.
And then they wanted all of this information from me to get me unbanned. So, I sent them pictures of my ID and I did this and that. And I'm like, this is stupid, but okay, I'll play along.
Hmm.
And then they started asking for things like utility bills and things like that to prove that I was really in the United States and an American and not some Macedonian hacker. And I was just like, you know what? Keep your freaking page.
Yeah. I got to provide all of the documentation that it takes to get a passport to travel the world to be the admin on my Facebook.
Right.
Uh,
May I ask for your ID, please?
right. It's the
So,
same thing, essentially.
yeah. So I just said, forget it. And I had other people as admins on there, thankfully, or the page would just be dead. But
Mhm.
I have other people as admins who aren't in any trouble. So we
Wow.
keep it going. But it's just really annoying to have to go through them and say, hey, can you go post this on my page real
Yeah.
quick? Like, how
Yeah.
aggravating. I have like 35,000 people on there that I should be able to reach at any point in time, and I can't.
Yeah. It just makes absolutely no sense. But Facebook is so, they've got a hand in so many things that it's not surprising that they
Right.
overreach with their power. Do you
Absolutely.
think, since it's like, I guess it's along the lines of shadow banning or what you say on the internet gets you in trouble, do you feel like it's fair to say if, now you're the head of the organic prepper, you've got all this stuff going on, and then if there were people who could go and dig through old tweets or old posts and they pull up stuff that you said when, you know, you were younger and you had different thought patterns and things like that, and then they use that against you to try and just completely dox and ruin your career and your life.
Right, right. I mean, I think that's absolutely ridiculous. I certainly don't hold the same opinions at 52 as I held at 25. I mean, I was super idealistic when I was 25. And then, like, kids that are even younger, they do dumb things. They post dumb things online.
Yeah.
They're not thinking about college admissions or future careers when they're out drinking and carousing with their friends. And
Right.
they post a picture with some questionable caption on Instagram. Like, that's just ridiculous. And it also pigeonholes us. It denies us the right to evolve into a more enlightened person if we're constantly judged by our views from the past.
Yeah. And the scary thing is I had read somewhere, somebody said that like groupthink is so rampant on social
Yeah.
media. So like if you see two or three people, it's like seeing bullying in real life. You see two or three people kind of ganging up on somebody for their opinion, and then you happen to read it and you're like, you know what? I don't agree with them either. And it's so easy to be somebody that you're not. on the internet. You can be a tough guy and say all these horrific things, kind of like in the first episode that everybody should go listen to if you haven't yet. When you were talking about your very first article that kind of got you in trouble, how they attacked
Right.
your family and they said horrendous things
Yeah.
about you and your life just because you posted an
And
opinion. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, here's the funny thing. I get a lot of threats in my private messages on Facebook. And I mean, it's just dumb. Like it's usually some kind of horrific rape threat, like with a chainsaw or something like that. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to play Facebook's game and I'm going to report this. Well,
Hmm.
apparently that isn't against their terms and conditions, but I posted a picture of a cat that looked like Hitler and I got banned.
Yeah, I mean that's so wildly backwards that it just makes no sense.
Right, right. I mean, they're absolutely not interested in protecting people like me. But I guarantee if somebody sent that same threat to a person who was perhaps of another political inclination,
Yeah,
that, everybody would be banned forever.
yeah. It's I mean the rules on Facebook. I feel like you said, they are. It's who is it?
Right,
Who is it
right.
comfortable for?
Yeah.
And there's clearly a group of people. Did you ever, when the time of that, when they were banning everything that Trump would do, and then like Parler came up and about, did you ever venture over to that
Oh,
platform?
I have accounts on all the major platforms.
Mhm. Yeah,
But
I haven't been over there much, but
honestly, Facebook is the best place to reach people,
yeah,
and Twitter. And, I hate it that that's true, but it is. And I run a business, so I have to go where customers are.
yeah, yeah. It makes sense. I mean, the advertising tool, and everything that Facebook offers is
Oh, I'm
so
not
unbelievably.
allowed.
Oh yeah, yeah, but yeah,
I'm not allowed. That account was banned.
yeah, yeah. I believe it. I believe it. I mean, it's kind of, I guess it's kind of just a shame that when people, you just get attacked on the internet for what you say, or they dig up your past, when really, like, educating somebody instead of crucifying them. Like you said, I don't share the same beliefs that I did when I was 16 years old. And I've said and did a lot of dumb stuff then, but I don't feel like I should, you should have your life ruined for that. Given I'm not a person in a position of power, it really only does, I guess. Well, it probably doesn't only happen to them, but they're in the limelight.
You
So
have kids who get scholarships that maybe made a tweet they shouldn't have made when they were
right,
13. Like, that's ridiculous. It's
yeah,
absolutely ridiculous. And how vindictive to go dig that up. And, as far as my advertising thing getting banned, that's kind of my own fault because um, after they banned me from my page, I could still advertise.
hmm,
Um, so I only advertised things that were anti Facebook. Like, I'm not giving
that's
them
awesome.
money unless I'm giving them money to talk badly about themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just writing down like a note to ask, well, what ads got you in trouble? But
It was the one
it makes sense.
ones about, like, Facebook doing psychological experiments on us and things like that.
Oh yeah. Well, when
Yeah.
they ask you to, I mean, when they're personally asking you, like, I need your ID and your address so we can see what your face looks like. You know how would they say every, 6 months or so, it seems like a challenge goes around where it's like the 10-year challenge or something to
Yeah.
get people to take updated photos of themselves and put it on the internet and attach your name to it.
I'm all over the internet anyway, so I'm not, there's really not a lot I can do about that. But
Right.
it's crazy, and I had a lot of fun with that while it lasted. I really
Oh, I'm
did.
sure.
I
It sounds fun.
I was writing all sorts of crap about Facebook.
How long did it last before they took you down?
I'd say about 4 months.
Oh, wow. I figured
Yeah.
they would be right on top of that.
No, I got a doozy out, like, once a week for 4 months.
Oh,
That
wow.
was my campaign.
Yeah. I know for like Valley Food Storage and stuff, the like there are a lot of restrictions on what you can and can't say, mostly because of the food aspect. But I mean, it's very hard to get up and running through their stipulations. So the fact that you got up and running with anti-Facebook messaging through their own guidelines is pretty
It was
cool.
so much fun. It was back when I don't just sell emergency food anymore, they
Mhm.
wouldn't let me run ads about asparagus because they said it was a sexual enhancement ad.
What?
Freeze-dried
Wow.
asparagus. You gotta be careful for that stuff.
I'll have to look into that. That's crazy. Yeah, I've never heard of that. We did have freeze dried asparagus for a little while.
Well, good luck running an ad.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I have to write that one down. Don't even try it.
Yeah, don't even go there.
Do you think that like cancel culture has invaded or has any part in the survival or the prepper space like that you've experienced other than what's happened to you, obviously?
Um, like you're talking about aside from getting defunded, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have people who refuse to visit my website because they don't like what I had to say about COVID
Hmm.
or some other, like, you know how it is, like something that I wrote at some point in time offended them and they don't want to have anything to do with me ever again.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, I've run into that, and it just is what it is, right?
it's true.
So I guess they just don't want to visit my website, which they don't need to. But where I think the big problem comes in is when people outside of the prepper world come in and start telling us what we can and cannot do.
Yeah, yeah.
That
It's
is the thing that concerns me greatly
mhm.
because it's just one of those things that you have people who know nothing at all about preparedness, and then they come in and they try to tell us what we can and can't teach. And
Mhm.
that seems so incredibly wrong to me because they don't even understand our topic.
Yeah, it's like where do you I don't like it's just like everything we've talked about. Where do you get off of being the voice of truth? Like
Right,
what you're saying is not true, so I'm going to completely shut you down as to what you had to say. And I had seen that like I was looking at what people's opinions, what they think cancel culture is, and some people were saying that was like it's to deplatform and to completely discredit somebody who just simply has a different view than you have.
right,
Which is it's pretty bizarre. When I was looking into some metrics around it, they said that only 44% of Americans actually knew what cancel culture or that style of thing even was. And it's I guess it all depends on like what space you're in. Like for you and I, it's a very
right.
prevalent, prominent thing, but other people are like, I have no idea what that even means.
Right, right. And it's just it's a real problem. And you know how the mainstream, they said to us outliers, if you don't like it, go make your own platforms. And then people went and made their own platforms. And then the
Mhm.
mainstream went out of their way to destroy them. Like that's what happened to Parlor and Gab and things like that. Um, they don't want us to have platforms at all.
Mhm.
So, that's the fight right there, is maintaining your platform.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's just such a weird, and it's kind of frightening to see where it's gonna go. Like it seemed like it was getting pretty bad, and I can't tell really if it's gotten better or if we've just gotten used to the level of
Hard to say, isn't it?
how crazy it is.
And don't you miss the days when a good debate didn't end up with like everybody unfriends and blocks everybody?
Oh
Like
yeah,
surround yourself with an echo chamber, you limit your ability to develop an informed opinion. Like
exactly.
on some topics, my personal opinions lean right, and on others they lean left, and sometimes it's somewhere in between. But without discourse, we can't think critically about both sides because we only hear one side.
Mhm.
And that's what they want. They only want one side presented because otherwise people ask too many questions and they don't just get in line.
Yeah, I have no desire to get online and just read a bunch of stuff that I completely agree with, and I'm just like, "Yep, yep, everything's good. Everybody believes what I believe. Okay, shut my laptop."
Yeah,
I like the
all is well in the world.
yeah, I mean, that's you're training yourself to become one of the worst kind of people because if you believe that and then when you finally do come across somebody who's like, "No, this is what I believe." You're not prepared for it at all. Like you
Right,
live in some kind of silo all day long and then, you have a regular conversation with somebody.
right,
So it's
right. I my kids have always been taught critical thinking.
mm,
Um, like if they didn't like a ruling by mom, like, no, you can't go to this, they could write me a 3-point theme and give me a compelling case of why they should be allowed to go to
oh, I
whatever
like that.
or whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
And well, they didn't. And if it wasn't important enough for them to write that, then it obviously wasn't important enough for me to change my mind. But if it was, I would look at what they had to say and I would be open minded about it. And sometimes I would change their mind and sometimes I wouldn't. Well, I cannot remember the exact topic, but my daughter was about 15 and she had a friend who's the same age in the car, and the friend is like just talking all of these like CNN talking points,
Mhm.
and I said something contrary to what she was saying and she started crying, and I was just
Oh,
like, why is she crying?
yeah,
And my daughter's like, mom, stop. You know what? I didn't think I was being mean, but apparently it's mean to disagree.
yeah.
Uh, yeah.
And
So
that's it's scary to think that like, you know, no offense to that young lady, but like this generation's coming up, it's just like, it's like eggshells. Like if it's nobody's as thick skinned as before. If everything's got to be so tiptoe, you can't even voice your opinion. Like, I mean,
right.
critical thinking will be dead. There will be no,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's kind of what they want, because
yeah,
if there is no critical thinking, then it's a lot easier to get people to comply with putting pantyhose over their head.
right, yeah. Just fall in line, like you said. Just wake up, present your card at the door, go in, go to work, put your pantyhose on your face, get your
Exactly.
groceries, get it home.
Forget that. Forget
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
such
I mean,
a
that's why I'm staying in the country right now. I it's hard enough to navigate all the crazy rules in the United States. I don't wanna have to navigate them in a language I don't speak.
yeah, and where the consequences could be much more grave, at least
Right,
for now, in a different country if
right.
you are caught not. I
Well,
guess, yeah.
Mexico's, response was really interesting. It was the rules were enforced a lot more harshly there. However, at the same time, people were allowed to keep working. So if you wanted to go into a business in Mexico, like whether it's a store, a restaurant, or whatever, you had to put a squirt of hand sanitizer on, take your temperature with the little scanner thingy,
Mhm.
and they have these mats that had fringe that had some kind of sanitizer, and you had to wipe your feet on those mats, and then wipe your feet dry on another mat,
Mhm.
and that was how you got into, and you had to wear a mask, and if you didn't do those things you did not get into those businesses, but nothing closed.
Yeah,
Everything was able to remain open, so their economy was able to stay afloat, I mean, there's no social safety net really in Mexico,
yeah,
and if people don't work they don't eat, so they really could not afford to shut everything down, so they made these rules and everybody was compliant because they had to make a living.
mhm.
And at least the part of Mexico where I lived, COVID wasn't nearly as bad as it was in the United States, although I did catch it while I was down there.
Yeah.
Um, but it wasn't the same numbers and overcrowding and that kind of thing. I don't know, like, if their little procedure had anything to do with that or not. But what I admired was their willingness to work around what was going on and keep people working.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's an amazing idea. And if we would have done that here, well, everything would have worked out too good. If we would
Right.
have just kept everything open and done that, I would have gladly done that rather than I got to go straight home from work. At one point, and this was when I was like, I don't know what reality we're living in. When I was deemed essential to go to work, I was presented from my employer. He was like, I guess we have to have these. When it was like the height of the lockdown, you had to have papers that if you were pulled over that said like this, I'm going to and from this place.
Right. Isn't that insane?
I
Showing your
mean,
papers?
yeah,
Oh,
showing my papers, wearing a mask. Like, I swear I'm only going here. I mean, what are you talking about? It's luckily, actually, I never took the papers. I was like, I'm never, absolutely never doing that. But
yeah.
that's just, it didn't last long, but that was,
Yep. I had to they gave us papers because I drove my daughter to work because she didn't have a car, and I
mm,
really didn't want her on a bus because this was before we were really sure how serious this was gonna be. I really didn't want her taking the bus back and forth to work, and so I drove her. So they gave me papers to drive my kid back and forth to work, and it's just like, just not gonna work for me. Like,
what do you think that, like, down the line, say 10 years, 20 years, in school, when they talk back about this time period, how do you think that history will be rewritten? Because obviously, like we just talked about, they went so back and forth so many times. So what narrative do you think that will be pushed, you know,
it
2 decades?
depends who wins.
It's true.
It
Very
really
true. Yeah.
It depends on, whether or not Fauci and all of his ilk are the people who are still in control,
Mm,
or whether the people who said, "No, we're not gonna do that," are the
yeah.
ones that are in control. Like, that's really, I mean, I can't predict it because I don't know which way it's gonna go. I think that things are going to become a lot more heated here in the United States coming
Yeah.
up. I think we're going to see protests similar to the ones in Canada. And I think that people are just done. Like,
Yeah.
they're just done.
Yeah, I think that the what's going on in Canada right now is should be a wake up call to people. And you don't. What's strange is that like how it's worded on Organic Prepper. If you Google, Canada, Trudeau, anything like that, none of the headlines make it seem like it's that bad at all.
No.
It's just like, oh, they enacted the Emergencies Act, and
Yeah, they're stealing their gas, they're stealing their food.
yeah,
They're
you're not
like,
allowed to buy stuff. I mean, it's beyond crazy.
what in the world, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of terrifying to think that it's like it could very well be next here. Like you said, they're probably taking note of like, okay, can we push this? Could we try this? But like you said, I think people have definitely they've had as much as they can take at this point.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we're just done.
Yeah,
Like, it's too they've crossed the Rubicon, and they've gone so far that Americans are just now at this point finally starting to get back to their roots of independence.
mhm. I saw
So,
in California that they had lifted the mask mandate in every city but Los Angeles,
right.
which that makes no sense to me because I mean, people are traveling in and out of Los Angeles
Right.
constantly. So no, as soon as you leave the city lines, I'm good. I can take my mask off. I can go into any business that I want. But when I get there, you got to wear it all the time.
There's so much idiocy. Like,
Yeah.
I just can't. like there's so many inconsistencies that make absolutely no sense whatsoever. How on earth are we supposed to take any of this seriously?
Right. I look forward to almost now the day when, it's years down the line and people are talking about it. It's like it's in the past. Hopefully it's in the past. And I can be like, oh, no, absolutely not. That's not how it was at all. Like, depending on what they say is how it went versus what we actually lived through.
Well, I can tell you something really super interesting about that. So, been running this website for about 10 years now, and I recently sold a USB that has everything ever published on the Organic Prepper because honestly, the way things are going, who knows if we'll be taken down or not.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm hoping not, and I'm, doing everything I can to keep everything going, but we decided to put everything on a USB, which was a huge project. It's over
Yeah.
10,000 pages of content.
Wow.
And yeah, it's a lot. And that USB, as we were going through old articles, we were doing footnotes instead of links because we
Hmm.
didn't want it to just be full of links. And so we did footnotes. And so many of the articles that I had used for sources previously are no longer out there on the internet. You can't even find them
Jeez.
on the Wayback Machine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like
Wow.
it's been completely erased. And so I looked at that and I thought to myself, this is even more important than I thought it was. It's not just saving the informative stuff. It's a document
Yeah.
of what actually was happening.
Yeah. It's like a time capsule of real news.
Right,
Yeah.
of what we observed and commented on in, the early to, like, 2010s.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
wow,
crazy.
it was I couldn't believe how much stuff had disappeared. I couldn't believe how many times I had to type in a source that is no longer available,
Hmm.
said blah, 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 where I had block quoted something.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a shame they figure like, okay, enough time has passed. We can
Yeah,
just pluck this, pluck this, pluck this.
yep.
Okay, there's enough information out there to make it look relatively how we want it to look.
Right, right. Like, things like, do you recall, I believe it was in Los Angeles, it was somewhere in California, people broke into an electrical facility and, like, tried to shut it down?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, that happened. It did. I wrote about it. It's no longer out there on the internet, except yeah,
Wow.
and things that people had hacked and stuff like that, no longer on the internet.
That's just
Fascinating, isn't it?
yeah. You would think that the internet would stand to be like as our greatest tool, like as an archive of
It was
everything.
supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be. I mean, the inventor of the internet, that's what he wanted. Um, but it has been taken over. So, I urge people to support companies like mine, buy our archives
Mhm.
because they really do have the things that actually happened. And I mean, I remember reading stuff going, oh, I had forgotten about this. And I mean, it was an article a day every
Mhm.
day for 10 years. So there's
Yeah,
a
that's
lot.
really cool.
Yeah, there's tons.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It kind of points to that revisionist history you were talking about.
Yeah, that's it's gonna be it's gonna be scary what they come up with or what they'll continue to pluck from the internet. So it's
Right.
good that we have people like you and the organic prepper out there preserving what actually happened.
We do our best.
Yeah.
We do our best.
Well, Daisy, I won't keep you any longer. We're at about an hour now. But I
Awesome.
thank you so much for coming on, talking about cancel culture, just having a great conversation. I really appreciate it, and
Yeah, lots of
hopefully
fun.
we can have you back sometime soon. You're a lot of fun to talk to. Got a lot of wisdom and knowledge, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Well, it was really nice talking to you too.
All right, you have a good day.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the episode on cancel culture and a myriad of other things with Daisy Luther. Again, thank you to her, and visit the Organic Prepper for all of your blog and news needs. They're one of the best out there. Now, if you are an avid listener, you already know this, but if not, we would like to thank our friends over at Valley Food Storage for giving us a coupon towards your next order. If you use the code PRACTICAL15 at checkout, you can take 15% off your next order. They've got all kinds of good stuff, and they even just released a very, very low entry point 72-hour kit that is based off the CDC recommendations of the food you should have for a 3-day period. And those are going quick. So hop over there, use your discount code Practical15 at checkout and take 15% off. Thank you guys for listening so much. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.